Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special meeting of the Waterbury Board of Education. We'll begin tonight with a moment of silence. Commissioner Sweeney, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone.
Commissioner Harvey,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Pagano,
Here.
Vice President Rodriguez,
Here.
Commissioner Stango,
Here.
Commissioner Sweeney,
Here.
Commissioner Theriault,
Here.
Commissioner Jason Van Stone,
Present.
Commissioner Tom Van Stone,
Present.
President Brown.
Present. Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you. Next on the agenda is public address to the board. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion to suspend the regular business to hear from the public on tonight's special meeting items only.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. I think we have one speaker tonight. All speakers are encouraged to submit prepared written statements to the commissioners. Comments shall be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. There will be no responses this evening to any questions or concerns raised, but they will be referred to the administration for review and response. Thank you. First on the agenda is Robert Goodrich.
Good evening. Robert Goodrich, 14 Stanrod Avenue, Waterbury, Connecticut. I'm here tonight to request that item 5.1 be removed from the consent calendar for a few reasons, none of which would have to deal with the purported competency of the plan, but for the basis of which community involvement has not happened for this plan development. Now, according to the document, the District Technology Committee started meeting again last fall, in the fall of 2016, nearly 7 months ago. And up until this point, I can't identify a community member or a parent or a community organization that has been asked to participate in this. To me, this means the plan is flawed. In its own defined mission statement, it calls for representations of all constituents. So from the bare facts of the mission statement, this plan doesn't meet its own stated purpose. In the entire 18-page document, students as a constituency to be responsible for tasks to develop this plan are named twice in close to over 40 different areas or breakouts that the plan identifies. 0 times are parents or community members put in this plan as people who are responsible for making decisions or choices on this. It's a little troubling. So, if you don't pull it off the consent calendar, I'm going to urge, I don't think you can vote no, but I urge you to vote no anyways on the entire consent calendar. I don't know if that's an order of business that the board can go through. So the plan represents the needs and wants of education professionals, not community members, students. So to fully attain some of these goals associated with equitable access to technology and its benefits for students as well as parents, this whole plan needs to be redone and be influenced by parents and students first, and then community members and community organizations. If you don't do that, as a board, we can't accurately represent what the wants and needs are, and equity in regards to technology access in this district can never become true. So with a district that does struggle with equity issues, I urge you to take this off the consent calendar and make the IT department and the district leadership staff go out and meet with community members and maybe come back in the fall with a new plan. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Seeing none, could I have a motion?
Motion to return to regular business.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Okay, to the consent calendar. Would anybody like to remove anything from the consent calendar? Commissioner Van Stone.
I'd like to remove item 5.1 from the consent calendar.
Okay, any other items?
5.1.
Okay. I will read the consent calendar, minus 5.1. 5.2, request permission be granted to Major Mike Simon, Willoughby High School, and 8 chaperones to take 70 students to Niantic to attend Camp Niantic. Request permission be granted to Leah Smith, Crosby High School, and 5 chaperones to take 42 students to New York to visit the Fashion Institute of Technology. Request permission be granted to Barbara Frew and Jeff Shockey, Willoughby High School, and 2 chaperones to take 20 students to New York to visit the United Nations. Request permission be granted to Barbara Frew and Jeff Shockey, WAMS, and 2 chaperones to take 20 students to New York to visit the United Nations. Request permission be granted to Barbara Frew and Jeff Shockey, Waterbury Career Academy, and 2 chaperones to take 20 students to New York to visit the United Nations. Request permission be granted to Barbara Frew and Jeff Shockey, Crosby High School, and 2 chaperones to take 20 students to New York on May 15th to visit the United Nations. Request permission be granted to Kathy DeFranzo, Crosby High School, and 14 chaperones to take 128 students to Agawam, Mass. To visit Six Flags. 5.9, request permission be granted to Donna Mancuso, Crosby High School, and 1 chaperone to take 4 students to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to participate in the National Life Smart competition. 5.10, request permission be granted to Craig Poulter and Robert McGrath, Kennedy High School, and 2 chaperones to take 20 students to Boston on April 25th to visit the Boston Museum of Science. Request permission be granted to George Flaherty, Kennedy High School, and 3 chaperones to take 14 students to St. Louis, Missouri on April 24th through the 30th to participate in the first Robotics World Championship. Request permission be granted to Yolanda Lee and Nicoletta Colachu, Crosby High School, and 4 chaperones to take 40 students to New York to visit the American Museum of Natural History. Request permission be granted to Ariane Salcedo, Kennedy High School, and 5 chaperones to take 50 students to New York to visit the 9/11 Memorial and Museum and Battery Park. 5.14, request permission be granted to Galena D'Amico, NEMS, and 5 chaperones to take 30 students to New York to visit the Met. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent calendar, items 5.2 through 5.14.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Commissioner Van Stone.
Actually, if I may, Madam President,
Oh,
I'd like to make a motion to remove item 5.1 from tonight's agenda and refer it back to the Curriculum Committee.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion.
Commissioner Van Stone?
I would have accepted the idea we're going to put community members on as we go, and that would have been fine. But to also hear that it actually never came out of committee gives me, I think, enough reason to refer it back to the committee so we can do twofold. Begin a recruitment process for the non-educators and to work the markups that Chairman Van Stone had mentioned in committee. I think that is the proper way to do it and the right way, and I believe that's what we should do tonight. And I don't believe there's any pressing issue time-wise that this has to be approved tonight.
There is. Only the pressing issue is that we need to ensure that we have a tech plan approved by the Board of Ed so we can be in compliance with E-rate funding. So we get 80% of our funding for our infrastructure and our internet ISP services from E-rate, and we have to have a tech plan approved and on file when I filed the 470, 471. Again, this is going to be a living document. My goal is to hopefully, this thing is not going to change once, it's going to change 100 times if we're actually doing our jobs and actually going through it and reconvening the committee to ensure. So, all these goals and objectives can be changed as we move forward, but I would like to get something in place approved by the board, so in case I ever get audited by the federal government on the E-rate, I have an approved document at least as the starting point, as the premise.
Is there a date certain that this has to be approved by?
Probably should have had one already approved, but I talked to the E-rate folks, and they said as long as we get one before the 471 window closes, which is, I think, 30 days out, we should be okay.
Chairman Van Stone, can we schedule a curriculum committee to meet that timeline?
We'll meet immediately, but as planned, I would be against voting on this tonight. I have no issue with planning a meeting tomorrow, if that's what it takes. But as written, as I stated, I was a little surprised it was on the agenda. I don't
Okay.
recall a date being brought to the committee meeting. I could be wrong, but I don't recall a date being brought to the committee meeting, say we have to sign this by X.
So if will you say we're 30 days out and you think we can get a meeting, I'll stand by my motion to remove and refer.
And I think with the caveat that I would be in favor of that, but understanding that as we move forward, we will be setting up, an advisory committee, a broader community and business advisory committee that should be ongoing, similar to, I think, the model that we did for the Waterbury Career Academy, which I think worked. We had, industry representatives, and it was an ongoing committee. So I think, if we send it back to the curriculum and we make the changes, I don't think we're going to, in this time frame, be able to do that kind of community outreach. But I think we have a commitment from the department to do that ongoing. I
think we could begin the process. We
Okay.
certainly won't complete it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Commissioner Sweeney. Oh,
Yeah, I thought I was first. Thank you. Just to echo Commissioner Van Stone, I think in all fairness to what the speaker addressed, we have a document that stated that we would include the community, the students, etc., which we have put together. But we did that without that input. So one will question, as it has been questioned, whether or not the document is flawed. So I think, number one, we need to do, and this is no criticism of you, Mr. Zuda, none at all, and that one, okay, there was no vote to move this document forward from the committee, number one. Number two, that we did not include the community, the parents, the students, all right? And understanding, number three, the timeline. I think it's in order for us to make sure we meet as soon as possible. I have a problem with the fact that a document has already been put together and we haven't received that input from the members as stated in the actual documents. I have a real issue with that. So again, I offer my services in terms of getting some representation from the parents, from the community, and the students. And I think we need to do that as quickly as possible. I am for removing the item 5.1 from the agenda in order to do that. We need to work pretty quickly to get this done. Thank you.
Commissioner Sweeney and then Commissioner Van Stone.
Point of protocol, the proper motion here would be to postpone that item, and with either to the next voting meeting or with a specific date for that to be on an agenda. That's proper rules under Robert's Rules of Order. I would have concerns because we have grant funds out there. I understand and I support the idea that we should get some community, some students, some parents on board here, but I don't think that changes the fact that we have grants tied up in this. And I would be concerned if we postponed this and we didn't have a show of support from this board for what is behind those grants, that we stand to lose some of those grants. I'd be worried about that. So from my take on it, we have a commitment from our central office that they will reach out for community members, parent members, and student members. I think we should hold them accountable for that commitment and make sure they come through on that. But I'm not sure that I would hold off at least for too long on making sure that we vote and get this through so that those grants come through and we have that money going forward. And I don't think that bringing on board community members, parents, students is going to change the fact that we have applied for and been awarded grants. So That's my take on it, but again, the proper procedure would be to postpone the item either with a specific date for a vote or to the next voting meeting.
Would you be open to that?
The only issue with that is we don't know the date. It's got to go back to curriculum. So I'd be happy to postpone it till it has been approved by the curriculum committee, but we don't have a date certain. So that's why I would stand by removing it from this meeting and referring it back to committee. Because it's my belief that the document that comes back from committee will be changed. So in my opinion, we're never going to vote on this document. Maybe a comma here, a change there, but this document won't come back from committee.
Okay, so as the motion stands, it's a motion to remove it. I think we need to amend them. Are you making a motion to amend it to postpone?
I think that a motion to remove it is improper. I think,
So are you
again, that
making a
once
motion?
once it's on the agenda, it should be a motion to postpone.
In past practice, we've removed items
Exactly,
25 times.
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so you're not making a motion to do that?
Motion's on the floor.
Okay, so she's not making a motion to amend. Okay, so the motion right now is to remove 5.1 from the agenda and send it to the curriculum committee for a vote or for revisions and get it back to us as soon as possible. That's the understanding. Commissioner Van Stone.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not going to sit here and say two wrongs make a right. And aside to this is this board a few months ago wanted to limit our number of meetings to be committee-based, and this would be in total contradiction of the conversations we had about being committee-based. I would absolutely agree that it should be removed. I'll have a meeting any day we can get a quorum. I don't care if it's tomorrow, if it's a weekend. I will move this along as fast as possible as the chair of this committee. But right now, it's not ready to be presented, so it should be removed.
Exactly.
That is the correct wording. Thank you.
Commissioner Stango.
Thank you. I guess, Mr. Zoot, I would like to know what happens if we remove this tonight. I mean, are we going to be out of compliance? I mean, if we're looking at a week or 2 weeks, what's going to happen at some point in time?
If E-rate folks ask me, through a general audit and say, should present your approved technology plan, then we would be out of compliance and we run the risk of losing the funding. If they don't, then, we can make it happen and we should be okay. But I don't know. I mean, I've been audited in the past. Doesn't happen every year, but it's a possibility that can happen. So if we do, then what happens is we lose $180,000 in funding for a wide area network that connects all of our schools together. We'd have to come up with that money.
So you're saying that we would possibly lose $180,000 worth of funding if this isn't...
If we're out of compliance with E-rate, yes, and we don't
And what's the date for being out of compliance?
What they told me was the end of the 471 filing window. There's 3-step process. A 470 application as it gets filed, and then a 471 application, and then a 486 is to receive your funding once the 471 has been certified. That window closes in 30 days. So as long as we get something, a document that has been approved by the Board of Ed, and I have it in the folder, if I get audited, I can show that we had a 471 application, and we also had a Board of Ed approved technology plan.
In 30 days?
30 days, yes.
30 days, okay.
Yeah.
I think 30 days is reasonable.
Thank you. And just everybody should understand that this process of doing this plan is something this board encouraged, and we were kind of out of compliance. And so now we're going to be in compliance. So this is really a good thing. We're moving forward. We appreciate all the hard work, but we were not in compliance. We didn't have an updated plan. So this is a very important work that superintendent has spearheaded with staff. So I think we're landing on a vote now, unless somebody has, I think.
Go back to committee.
Go back. The motion is to remove it from and send it to the curriculum
I
committee.
have another comment.
Yes, Tom. Commissioner.
First off, I will never be asked to make a vote with a gun to my head. If we know today that there's a timeline on these funds, we knew that 6 months ago. So don't bring it before me with a gun to my head to sign it off.
Right.
And if a lesson learned is we lose something, well, guess what? We just learned a tough lesson. All right?
Thank you.
That's my
Commissioner
final.
Commissioner Hernandez?
If we have 30 days, let's try to get a meeting together within the next day. Tomorrow, I'm willing on a Saturday. I don't know if anyone else on the curriculum is willing, so that we can move it along. Mr. Zuda says we have 30 days. I think
We could
in
get it
5
done.
days, we can pull something together.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Harvey?
Commissioner, I was going to just end discussion. Go ahead,
Oh, I'm
Commissioner.
sorry, I
Thank
didn't
you.
see
Go
it
ahead,
over here.
Commissioner.
Commissioner Theriault?
It's already been stated that this is a work in progress. So I don't necessarily agree that if we approve this, it won't come before us again in some modified form. There could be more than periods and commas changed. Concepts and ideas could change as the result of further community involvement. So I do agree that maybe the standard operating procedure wasn't quite covered with regard to getting it out of committee, but I think the modifications that will come about because of more community involvement may or may not be substantial. They may, in fact, be pretty much to the same of what we've already decided. So I'm kind of at on a seesaw which way to go here, because I think it's kind of a conundrum, because if you go one way, you go the other way. You know, I don't think it's going to matter a great deal when you have the community involvement people. Maybe it will. Maybe there'll be some other things that the other professionals and educators haven't included. It's never a bad idea to have parents and community involved. But I think both sides of the aisle have an argument here. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Let's hold on.
Okay. All right. The motion before us is to remove item 5.1 and send it back to curriculum for further discussion and revision, and hopefully within a 30-day period or before that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call? Okay.
Commissioner Harvey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Just a point of order.
Okay.
My point of order is the 30 days. You said that with tongue-in-cheek within 30 days, but I don't think that was
That's not part of
Commissioner
the
Van
motion.
Stel's intent.
That's not
Okay.
part of the
Okay,
motion.
thanks. Okay.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Pagano?
Yes.
Vice President Rodriguez?
Yes.
Commissioner Stango?
Yes?
Commissioner Sweeney?
No.
Commissioner Theriault?
Abstain.
Commissioner Jason Van Stone?
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Van Stone?
Yes.
President Brown?
Yes. What's the vote?
8 yes, 1 no.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to receive and place on file items 6.1 and 6.2, Superintendent's notification to the board.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.